Today I will show you what I believe are the best endgame rune words in Diablo 2 Resurrected. Some of them are used by almost every character in the game, while others are best in slot for only a handful of very specific builds. To make things easier, I will separate them in 4 categories: helms, shields, armors, and weapons. Let's start with the helms. The first one is Flickering Flame. It gives 3 to fire skills with between -10 and -15 enemy fire resist, with a little bit of mana on top of it. And it also has the resist fire aura, which gives between 84 and 106 fire resist, which is considerably more than the -70 fire resist penalty from a Fire Thunder charm. It requires Nef, Pull, and Vex, so it's not necessarily cheap, but this is by far your best helm option if you're playing a fire build. Then we have my favorite helm for Act 2 mercenaries, Cure. It gives some faster hit recovery with a bonus of 5% to maximum life and some poison resist, but the most important thing is the level 1 cleansing aura. It reduces the duration of poison and curses on your mercenary and yourself by 39%. I generally play Nova Sorceress, and poison is the only elemental type that goes through energy shield, so this rune word completely solves the biggest weakness of my build. And the best part is it only takes Shile, Yo, and Tal to make it, so it's very easy to make. Now a very niche rune word, Dream. This rune word can also be made in a shield, and it gives pretty much the same stats, like some faster hit recovery, vitality, all resist, and magic find. But the reason why this rune word is used is for the level 15 Holy Shock aura, and if you have it in the helm and the shield at the same time, the aura stacks and you get a level 30 Holy Shock aura instead. This is used for the Tesladin build, which is basically a Zeal Paladin using 2 Dream rune words at the same time. The lightning damage is very high, so this is one of the strongest melee build in the entire game. The only downside is that you need a jaw rune to make it, and you need to make this rune word both in the helm and the shield to make it viable. So you need to break the bank and spend 2 jaw runes, but if you like the Zeal Paladin build, it's definitely worth it. And the last helm rune word of this list is also a very niche one, Wisdom. This is best in slot for Throw Barbarians and very good for Amazons. It gives 33% attack, which is very good, but most importantly, the much needed Can't Be Frozen stat. And on top of that, it gives very high bonus to attack rating with mana steal and mana after each kill, which are all very important for Amazons and Throw Barbarians. And the best part is that it's quite cheap to make with only Pull, Ith, and F, so you can make it easily from farming the Countess. And now let's move on to the shields. And let's begin with the most commonly used rune word in the game, Spirit. This is best in slot for a lot of builds, most specifically Sorceress, Bone Necromancers, and Hammerdins. The reason is simple, it gives everything a caster needs: 2 to all skills, faster cast rate, faster hit recovery, mana, vitality, and a very nice amount of resists. And it is very affordable to make. The only runes you need are Tal, Tul, Ort, and Amn, which makes this rune word one of the most powerful rune word in the game for the runes it requires. The only downside is that even though the runes are very easy to get and it has a required level of only 25, the only non-paladin shields that can have 4 open sockets are Monarchs, and they only drop in the Hell difficulty. If you're a paladin, the best base you can get is a Sacred Targe with 45 all resist and 4 open sockets. This would give you a total of 285 resist points, which is absolutely insane. And now, let's talk about today's video sponsor, me. Please subscribe. We are almost at 10,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for your support. Now a very niche rune word, Exile. This can only be made in Paladin shields, and it's by far the best in slot option for Smiter Paladins. A level 13 to 16 Defiance aura will give you a bonus of more or less 200% to defense. But the most important thing about this rune word is the 15% chance to cast level 5 life tap on striking, which heals you for 50% of your physical damage. This is the main reason why Exile is so popular for Smiter Paladins who farm the Ubers. You can just stand in front of them, spam smite, and they won't be able to kill you. And it also repairs 1 durability every 4 seconds, so you can make this rune word in an F base, which can make your Exile way above 1000 defense. And the last rune word for the shields is Dream, but I already covered it, so let's jump straight to the armors. Let's begin with Treachery. This is a very good armor, especially for Act 2 mercenaries. One of its biggest strengths is the 45 increased attack speed, which increases your mercenary's damage by a very large margin. And if you have lifesteal on other items, more damage also means more lifesteal, so it also makes your mercenary much harder to kill. But the main reason why this armor is so good is the 5% chance to cast Fade when struck. A level 15 Fade gives 60 all resist and 15% physical damage reduction for about 5 minutes. So this armor is very good both offensively and defensively. You can also use this armor on a Smiter Paladin to proc Fade before fighting the Ubers. It only requires Shell, Tul, and Lem, which are all very easy to find from the Countess. One of my favorite armor in the game is Fortitude. It gives a huge bonus of 300% enhanced damage, which makes this armor very good for Act 2 mercenaries, but also best in slot for shapeshifting druids and boazons. It also gives up to 30 all resist and has 20% chance to cast level 15 chilling armor when struck, which increases your defense by more or less 200%. It's a bit expensive to make with L, Soldol, and Low, but if you're looking for a big damage boost as a Boazon or a shapeshifting druid, this rune word is for you. Next we have Chains of Honor. This is another extremely powerful endgame armor, but unlike Fortitude and Treachery, its focus is almost entirely on survivability. The biggest highlight is the massive 65 all resist, which is the highest resist bonus you can get from an armor in the entire game. It also gives 2-2 skills, lifesteal, damage reduction, and some magic find. This is best in slot for some paladin builds, and it can also be very good for many other characters, and is the best option if you're looking to prioritize survivability for your Act 2 mercenary. The only downside is that it requires a bear rune, so it's pretty expensive to make. A very niche armor rune word is Bramble. If you're a summoned necromancer, this is the best in slot armor for your Act 2 mercenary, and the reason is very simple. Thorn's Aura. It reflects a huge amount of damage to the enemies attacking your minions, so if you're a summoned necromancer, you can just stand back and let your minions do all the work. It's quite expensive to make with Ral, Om, Sur, and Eth, but if you're a summoner, it's worth it. And finally, Enigma. This is the endgame armor for most people. Being able to teleport changes the way almost every build is played. It allows pretty much every characters in the game to be able to farm efficiently. On top of that, it gives 2 to all skills, 8% damage reduction, 45 faster run walk, with a massive boost to strength and magic find based on your level. Enigma completely transformed Diablo 2 when it was introduced in patch 1.10, and even today, more than 20 years later, it's still considered the ultimate endgame armor for the vast majority of builds. You need a jaw and a bear rune to make it, so it's very expensive, but it's absolutely worth it. Now let's move on to the weapons. This is by far the biggest category on this list, and depending on the build you're playing, the right weapon rune word can make your character much stronger than it currently is. Let's begin with White. White is by far one of the best weapons you can use for a Bone Necromancer. It gives 3 to poison and bone skills with 3 to bone armor, 2 to bone spear, 4 to skeleton mastery, and 20 faster cast rate. But what makes this rune word even better is that you can make it in a bone 1 base that already has 3 to bone spear. So it gives a total of 8 points to bone spear, which is absolutely insane. It only requires Dole and Yo runes, which are both very easy to get from the Nightmare Countess, and you can shop for a bone 1 base from Drognen in Act 2 normal difficulty. Then we have Heart of the Oak. This is a very good option for casters. 3 to all skills with 40 faster cast rate, increase max mana by 15%, and between 30 to 40 all resist. Even though it gets overshadowed by some other weapons, it's still a very good option for casters. And before the new Void rune word that came in Reign of the Warlock, Hoto was the best in slot option for Hammerdins. It's relatively expensive to make with Ko, Vex, Pull, and Thul, but it's still a very good option for Hammerdins before you get your hands on a Zod rune for Void. And let's elaborate a little bit more about Void. It gives 2 to all skills with 40 faster cast rate, between 10 and 15% bonus to magic skill damage, up to 3 to the Abyss skill for Warlocks, and up to 12 attribute points with 30 magic find. This is very competitive with the White rune word for Bone Necromancers, and it's best in slot for Hammerdins, Abyss Warlocks, and Echoing Strike Warlocks. It requires Thul, Zod, and Ist, so it's quite expensive to make, but it's definitely worth it. Next we have Grief. This is one of the strongest melee one-handed weapon in the entire game. It gives 30 to 40 increased attack speed, a huge flat damage bonus of up to 400, extra damage to demon, and life after each kill. Since the damage it adds is flat instead of the enhanced damage percentage, it makes this weapon much stronger than it seems on paper. It is by far the best in slot weapon for several melee builds like Zeal Paladin and Berserk and Frenzy Barbarian. It's quite expensive to make with Eth, Tyr, Low, Mal, and Ral, but it's really worth it. In fact, it's the first expensive rune word a Zeal Paladin and Berserk Barbarian should go for. Then we have Insight. Even though it's one of the cheapest rune word of this list, Insight is still best in slot for a lot of endgame builds. It can be used on an Echoing Strike Warlock, but it's mainly used on an Act 2 Mercenary. It gives up to 260 enhanced damage with a very high bonus to attack rating, but most importantly, it has the Meditation Aura, which gives a massive amount of mana regeneration. So it can make your mercenary very strong if used in a high level F base, but with the Meditation Aura, it's also one of the rune word with the most important utility in the entire game. You only need Ral, Tyr, Tal, and Soul, which are all very easy to find from normal and Nightmare Countess. And since the runes are so easy to find, what I generally do is I make an Insight as soon as I have the runes in the first base that I find, to have the Meditation Aura as soon as possible, and I just remake it every time I find a better polearm base. This is the kind of rune word that you can make around the required level of 27 and keep it without ever having to change it. Next we have, in my opinion, a very underrated weapon. Crescent Moon. The most important stat on this is definitely the minus 35 enemy light resist. It only requires Shell, and Tyr, so I always make a Crescent Moon on my Nova Sorceress until I'm able to make an Infinity. It's also a very good option for Trap Assassins, and the 7% chance to cast Static Field also makes this rune word a very interesting offhand choice for Frenzy Barbarians. Then we have a very niche weapon rune word. Beast. The main stat on this rune word is the level 9 Fanaticism Aura. It increases your party's damage, attack rating, and attack speed, so it's an extremely good option for summon druids. It also gives bonus to attack speed, enhanced damage, crushing blow, open wounds, prevent monster heal, a good bonus to strength, with 3 to wear bear and lycanthropy. It's pretty expensive to make with bear, Tim, Mal, and Lom, but it's definitely going to make your party of animals much stronger. Next, we have one of the most commonly used rune words in the entire game. Call to Arms. It gives a bunch of stats, but by far the most important one is Battle Orders. It increases your mana and life by a massive amount, making every character's much tankier. You will most likely only use CTA in your weapon swap for the Battle Order buff. And the bonus to skills you have from other pieces of equipment like Shaco, Spirit Shield, your Torch, etc. will apply to Battle Orders from your CTA. So you don't necessarily need to get a CTA with a very high Battle Order skill. I generally just get one with 3 or 4 to Battle Orders, because 5 and 6 can be very expensive to trade for. And if you make it yourself, it requires Am, Ral, Mal, Is, and Om, so it's a bit expensive. But it's a massive buff for the endgame, so it's really worth it. Then we have one of the strongest weapon rune word in the game. Infinity. This is best in slot to maximize damage on a Nova Sorceress with the Conviction Aura and the minus enemy light resist. And it's also best in slot on Act 2 Mercenaries for builds like Javazons and Trap Assassins. The level 12 Conviction Aura reduces enemies' defense by 83% and resist by 85%, so it gives you a massive boost in damage. It also has up to 325 enhanced damage and 40% chance of crushing blow. So not only it boosts your lightning damage, but it also makes your mercenary very powerful. The only downside of using it on a mercenary is that the minus enemy light resist will not apply to your own damage. It's one of the most expensive rune word to make, with Bear Mal Bear Ist, but if you can afford it, it's one of the rune word that will give you the highest damage bonus in the entire game. Next, we have one of the best rune word in the game for Boazons, Faith. It gives 330 enhanced damage with a huge 300% bonus to attack rating, 120 fire damage, 15 all resist, with 1 or 2 to all skills and level between 12 and 15 Fanaticism Aura. You should also make it in a Grand Matron bow base that gives 3 to bow and crossbow skills. With a good base and good rolls, this is the best Boazon weapon in the entire game. And it can also be used on an Act 1 mercenary to get the benefits of the Fanaticism Aura. The only downside is that it's quite expensive to make with Om, Ja, Lem, and Eld runes. Then we have Obsession, which is a very powerful rune word. The stats on this rune word are nothing less than crazy. It gives 4 to all skills with a huge 65 faster cast rate, 60 faster hit recovery, knockback, a massive maximum life bonus, with up to 70 all resist, some mana regeneration, vitality, energy, and magic find. It's quite expensive to make with Zod, Is, Lem, Lom, Yo, and Nef, but it's very powerful for many different warlock builds like Echoing Strike, Abyss, and Fire. Now a both famous and infamous rune word for assassins. Mosaic. This is one of the most powerful rune word in the game. It gives 50% chance for finishing moves to not consume charges. So if you use 2 of them, you can basically spam finishing moves. I personally never use Mosaic myself, so I can't talk too deeply about this rune word, but it makes the martial art assassin an extremely overpowered build. It used to be only available to make in ladder, but since Reign of the Warlock, it is now only possible to make in non-ladder. And it takes only Mal, Gul, and Am, so for the power it gives you, it's quite cheap to make. Next is a rune word that gives a very useful aura. Pride. This weapon should only be used on an Act 2 mercenary to support builds that focus on physical damage. It doesn't deal very high damage directly, but it provides a level 16 to 20 concentration aura, which gives a massive boost to physical damage. So this rune word is pretty much a trade-off. You sacrifice your mercenary's damage to boost your own. It's pretty expensive to make with Sham, Sur, Yo, and Lo, but it's your best option if you want to boost your damage on a Boazon. Then we have the most expensive rune word in the game, Last Wish. That rune word does a ton of stuff. It has 6% chance to proc Fade when struck, it has 10% chance to cast level 18 life tap on striking, it gives up to 375 enhanced damage, ignores target defense, and up to 70 crushing blow with prevent monster heal. and it also gives level 17 Might Aura. This is a crazy combination of stats and it's one of the best weapons for Zeal Paladins and Frenzy Barbarians. You can use Last Wish on a Frenzy Barbarian, with the Beast Runeword for your offhand weapon, and Pride on your Mercenary, and you would get Might, Fanaticism, and Concentration auras all at the same time. With the crazy high cost of Jaw, Mal, Jaw, Sur, Jaw, and Bear, we don't see this runeword very often. But if you are very wealthy, it's a very powerful and fun runeword to play with. And the last runeword of this video, Breath of the Dying. This doesn't provide any auras like a lot of other runewords in the list, but instead it focuses on pure damage output. It gives up to 400% enhanced damage with a crazy 60 increased attack speed, minus 25% target defense, 200% damage to undead, 30 to all attributes, and up to 15 lifesteal. This is an absolutely insane runeword. It's best in slot for shapeshifting druids, but also can be used on Act 2 mercenaries. In an Eth or Pike base, this is the weapon with the highest damage in the entire game. It requires Vex, Hel, El, Zod, and Eth, so it's pretty expensive to make, but if you have the runes for it, you should definitely make one if you're trying to maximize your damage output. From all the rune words I mentioned in this video, the ones I personally use in the endgame as a Nova Sorceress are Infinity for myself, with Insight in a Neth Thresher, the Fortitude Armor, and the Cure Helm for my Mercenary. Please let me know in the comments what are your personal favorites. That video was a lot of fun to make and I will continue making this kind of informative videos in the future. If you like these videos, feel free to click on the subscribe button to not miss any future uploads. Massive thanks to the channel members for supporting the channel. Thank you so much for your support, and thanks to all of you for watching this video until the end, and as always, happy grinding.